I've been wanting to make commentary videos for a while where I put me talking over the gameplay, and this is going to be the first one of those where I just talk about a certain topic that, maybe people want me to talk about. I'll probably put it over some ranked arcane practice fights, because I'm trying to get back to the old me of actually being good at stuff like that. I think this is a pretty fitting topic for the first one, and I'm going to be talking about the evolution of HCF. So essentially, we're going to talk about how HCF came to be and how it got to where it was. This particular video is going to be more informative than me giving opinions on it. I'm sure all of you would like to know, my opinion on the current HCF, because that's such a popular topic for people to ask people who played back then nowadays. So I just want to let you guys know that this is not that video. This is just an informative video on how HCF came to be and how it's progressed through the years. So when I say the term old HCF, sorry, I can't talk. What server comes to mind? I guarantee most of you are going to say Kohi or MineHQ, but the fact of the matter is neither of those servers were the original HCF. A very small percentage of you probably said Chapo, and Chapo was the network that actually created the Hardcore Factions game mode. To give this video a little bit of credibility, I feel like I need to quickly state why I feel like I have the authority to speak on this. The reason I bought Minecraft was because my cousin and his friend played Minez, which was another game mode on the Chapo network. So I bought Minecraft, and the very first thing I did was play Minez with them, and continued to do so. Eventually they quit, and I was forced to, find alternatives. I was messing around with game modes on the Chapo network, and the very first time I joined Chapo's Hardcore Faction server was probably around map 10 or 11, although I was still a pretty hardcore Minezer at this time, and that left no time for me to experiment any other game modes. But around the time of map 15 Chapo HCF, I got really tired of Minez. There were just so many hackers, and I got so tired of gearing up every single day just to die to hackers. I'm not going to explain how Minez works in this video, but most of you guys probably know what it is. If not, then don't worry about it. So once I got fed up with Minez, I made the full switch over to Chapo HCF around map 15. Now, I'll save you with my personal experience with HCF and just tell you the facts of how the gameplay was different. Gameplay, community, and just everything about how it was back then and how it compares to now. The main thing I see people complain about is, oh, HCF was never pay to win back in the day. But that's nowhere near the biggest issue, in my opinion. Obviously, everyone has different opinions, and I'm not going to try to sway anyone's opinion too much on this. I'm just going to be informing you guys of what it was really like back then. So the first noticeable difference is there were 3-day death bans on Chapo. It was scaling though, so if you had 1 hour playtime and you died, you would be banned for 1 hour. If you had 48 hours playtime, aka 2 days playtime, you would be banned, and you died, you would be banned for 2 days. If you had 3 days playtime, you would be banned for 3 days, but it wouldn't go above that. So if you had 6 days gameplay, 6 days of gameplay, which is a lot, but some people had it because the maps weren't 2 weeks long, then you would just be banned for 3 days. So death bans were different, and another thing that the majority of you will not know this, Chapo had a different type of spawn tag. So when you get hit nowadays in HCF, you're spawn tagged for 30 seconds, or I'm pretty sure it's not 60 seconds anymore. I'm pretty sure all servers made it 30, but I don't know that for a fact. Chapo had a different way to do that. The way Chapo's spawn tag was set up was, if you hit someone, you're tagged for 60 seconds, but if someone hits you, that doesn't add on to your tag. This concept created the most fun team fights I've ever participated in all of Minecraft, period. And I'll elaborate on that and tell you guys why that made the PvP so much more competitive and different. It was also because of this spawn tag that spawn fights were such a huge thing. But nowadays, people are, on some servers, people are invisible in spawn. You can't even see them. But back when you wanted to fight, you would go wait for another faction at spawn or end. So the spawn tag encouraged fighting and made it so you didn't have to kite all the way to your base. If you were fighting in the end, you couldn't get in. There was an end safe zone. So before you left end, there was like a safe zone, like how when you go into end nowadays, you know, there's that little square safe zone. They had one of those, but they also had a safe zone at the exit. So if there was a faction camping end, all you had to do was not hit any of them and run into the end safe zone to get out of end. If it was a 30v30 going on in the end, the faction that was losing, the leader would just call something like drop tag, drop tag. They would just tell you to drop your tag, meaning don't hit anyone anymore. And then you would kite around the end safe zone for 60 seconds, and hopefully you get in. It was the same concept around spawn, and this made people want to fight because they had a kiting option that was like right there. And another thing people did, which you can find videos of this, it's actually pretty cool, is something it's called Kohiing, really. Someone would pearl, and the faction, if you were trying to kill someone when they were kiting away from you, like if you were winning the fight, you would try to catch their pearls, because if you caught their pearls, like if they pearled and then the pearl hit you when they landed, they would get re-tagged, because technically the pearl was theirs and it hit you, so it would re-tag them for 60 seconds, and that's how a lot of people got the confirmed kills in fights like that where people drop tag. Hopefully I explained the tag system decent enough. I probably did not, but there are videos on YouTube. Just look up Chapo HCF. Preferably, I don't know. It was more fun like maps 20 and below. So if you're still confused about that, you can find videos of people spawn tagging. Or Kohiing people, and like the whole spawn tag system in general. So that was a big change, because no other server after Chapo used their spawn tag that I know of, that was like popular. One of the big reasons the server worked so well was because the community, while you were even like on good terms with rival factions, the community was just a lot tighter and closer together than it is now. Most everyone on Chapo played the game mode for what it is. And there were even factions that didn't even fight. There were factions that gave out food to noobs. Their faction name was Fluffy. A big reason this was so fun is because people actually played for fighting, and a big reason that it helped people do that was because of spawn tag. I feel like if the spawn tag was introduced with this community, I don't think it would go very well, and I still don't think there would be that many decent fights. Another main event of Chapo that I haven't mentioned is Palace. To break it down, Palace was essentially the event on Saturdays, that if you won Palace, you were considered the best faction. Stuff like that's not really a big thing anymore since the maps are 2 weeks long. I don't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure it was different times for the maps every time, but it was somewhere. It was a little over a month each map, like a month and a half, I'd say. And every Saturday there was an event called Palace that was a King of the Hill, Koth, as we know it, and it was this massive build, and whoever won got to loot Palace, and that was a huge thing. There were just houses with chests inside of the houses that had a bunch of loot that you could get there. And the winners got to loot it all week until the next palace. Also, since I'm describing something to you guys that you've never played before, well, most of you anyways, I feel like I need to say there was no kits that you could use, like Kit Diamond or anything like that. The only thing it gave you was a sign that gave you a fishing rod, and there was a little pond at spawn that you could fish some fish out of. Also, I feel the need to say this, Chapo was the one who came up with the classes Bard, Rogue, Archer, and all those extra classes other than Diamond that you could go that adds a little bit of skill to the game. One thing that made Chapo HCF so enjoyable for me is the way the community played it. Everyone who played Chapo HCF, who was in that community, was playing to have a good time, not to, trap someone who records or any of the motives that people may have today. Everyone just simply wanted to win fights with their faction. Because throughout the years, we've been playing the same game. It's all been Minecraft nonetheless. The game we're playing hasn't changed. It's mainly been the mechanics of that game. And even the mechanics have stayed pretty much the same to the original hardcore factions. The biggest difference maker is how the community who's playing the server chooses to play it. Which on Chapo, it was pretty much impeccable. It was the absolute ideal gameplay that you would only dream of playing nowadays. So I could go into a ton of different subtopics about the community, what I think can be done to fix HCF, restore it to how it was, all that sort of stuff, but that can be a topic for a different video. Because as I remind you, this video is solely just to inform everyone on how it was back then and how it has changed to now. So all the stuff that I'm not really elaborating on can be topics for future videos. I'm sure many people are going to be saying, Glory, what is the solution? How do we get back to that? So that's enough about Chapo. Let's move on to the second server, Kohi. So Kohi was actually created by Travis VV. Travis was a player on Chapo HCF. There was a long period of time where Chapo and Kohi were the only two HCF servers out there. Now, I'm not 100% sure on when Kohi was created. I'm pretty sure I was still playing Mindsy at this time. I don't know when Travis VV decided to say, oh, I can take Chapo's HCF and make my own thing out of it. I don't know when that happened. If I recall, it was like map 12 Kohi and map 18 Chapo or something, so it was relatively close to the release of Chapo HCF. Although he obviously got the idea from Chapo. I'm just not 100% on how far apart the two servers were actually made, but that more or less doesn't actually matter. What matters is that Chapo was first and Kohi was second. Kohi introduced some changes like the spawn tag change, where if you got hit, you were tagged, thus eliminating the concept of end safe zones, because you wouldn't be able to get through end, obviously, if you were tagged. And just in general, Kohi had a little bit of a... They did different things instead of Chapo. They kind of tweaked it up a little bit. Like, for example, the currency on Chapo was money, and the currency on Kohi was emeralds. As far as how the community played Kohi, it was a bit different, but still the general concept. Because back when it started, everyone still wanted to do the whole winning team fights thing that is so seldom nowadays. Kohi brought in a whole bunch of a different type of people in the community, and they made it much more diverse. There were a bunch of popular Spanish YouTubers such as JT Patino, who brought some Spanish people in, and overall it became a pretty diverse network. There's a lot to talk about for me as like my personal experience with these servers and who I played with and how much fun I had, but that's not what this video is about. And so there really isn't that much more to talk about Kohi. They still had longer than 2-week maps. It was probably about the same time as Chapo's map length wise. And unlike Chapo, Kohi didn't adapt the kit style on their HCF server. They didn't have Bard, Archer, and anything like that, but that came later when they introduced Cube Core. Anyways, fast forward a bunch. Chapo announces that they're closing down, and MineHQ opens. Not MineHQ, HG Teams, which was under MineHQ. MineHQ already had like soup going on. But J-Halt decided to open up an HCF server, and shortly after that, Chapo closed down. Something I didn't mention was that Chapo kind of shot itself in the foot, because cheaters started becoming more and more common around this time, and Chapo refused to screen share anyone. They believed it was an invasion of privacy, and so cheaters roamed that network, and to this day they still roam that network. Not that it's fun to cheat on there nowadays anymore because no one really plays, but Chapo had and still has an awful way to combat closet cheaters. There are many other downfalls, but that's just one of them. This video isn't about the downfall of Chapo HCF, so we're not going to get too into it. But MineHQ comes along, and I've played that since the beginning of it, map 0.5 whitelist. And HCF has been established enough at this point that, as far as I can remember, HG Teams didn't really bring along any new concepts. It was just more of a more polished HCF server and up to date with the times. On MineHQ, HG Teams, there were still some pretty iconic fights that happened. It wasn't nearly as bad as far as people sitting in their base and only PvPing at their base and stuff like that. There were still plenty of team fights and fun to be had. Now this next part gets a little bit hazy for me since I've taken so many breaks, but essentially fast forward, there were no like big name HCF servers after HG Teams. It was all other HCF servers that didn't really bring anything new to the game. They were just different sources for people to play on. Like Viper was quite big for a while. Faithful, and that it just kind of became the era of everyone and their mother make an HCF server quick. And with the introduction of more and more of these HCF servers, the integrity of the original game mode and the tight-knit community kind of fell apart and drifted to all these different competitors. So fast forward a bunch, and now we're here. Felt and Arcane are the two most played HCF servers, and they're both under the same owners, Frozen Orb. The point of this video isn't to give my opinion on then versus now, but instead to just tell you about the evolution. So as you guys know now, there's kits, all sorts of kits you can buy. You can just join the server and have a diamond kit ready. There's 4 hour to 2 hour, like 2 to 4 hours start of the world timers where you can't kill anyone. On original HCF, it was, I believe, just a regular 30-minute PvP timer. And at the end of that, it was every man for himself. So there were a whole bunch of cosmetic changes, such as stuff you could like purchase to get advantage over players, as well as the biggest thing for me is the shift of the community. HCF is bigger than it's ever been right now. A lot of people say HCF is dying, but the fact of the matter is the player base is bigger than it's ever been. But the gameplay is the worst it's ever been. Once again, this is a topic for a different video, but one of the biggest reasons that it's like that is because of the mentality of the community. If everyone who played now could just go back and have the chance to play Chapo HCF under a decent leader, they would have a whole new respect for the game mode and what can become of it. So as far as the evolution of it goes, I've said all that. As you guys know, you guys all have been playing this new HCF for the most part, I'm sure. Or at least have seen videos of it because it's current. So I don't need to explain too much, but you know, the maps are 2 weeks long. There's like 4 different start of the worlds on one server per week. And the big reason is just to maximize income, honestly. Truthfully and honestly, it's all about just maximizing income, and the servers who have a player base have done that. So that is how we've gone from 30v30 team fights in End, where you have to drop your tag and kite around for 60 seconds not getting pearl blocked in a fight, to people spamming in chat PvP at my base when they have a 2 block high base, and right when someone runs in they just start right clicking blocks to trap them. With comparing those two side by side, the mechanics of the game haven't changed that much, other than, you know, shorter map, but we're still playing Minecraft. The single biggest reason it's like this is because of the overwhelming majority of the players not knowing what the original HCF intended for the game mode to be played. I hope this video gave you a little bit of insight on, you know, what was back then to versus what is now. I discussed many things that I could have gone much deeper on, but for the sake of time and, you know, just different videos, I can talk about that in a different video. We're already at 18 minutes long. That's crazy. Did not mean for it to go this long. Yeah, thank you for listening, and hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight on, you know, how it was back then. Feel free to comment commentary suggestions for me.